Today we are going to talk about the different ways that we think that affect us in a negative way and that create mental dissonance, mental suffering, and even anxiety and depression about our own lives. Where does that come from? For the most part, that comes from the way that we were socialized as children, the way we were raised. If you grew up in a home where there was a lot of criticism, then you learn to be critical, or you learn to avoid criticism. So what happens is that you develop certain ways of seeing yourself or feeling about how the world is. And so anybody who is a parent here and you are listening to me, the phrase, when we ask our children, and I am a culprit of that as well, when we ask our children, what's wrong with you? The message that your child gets is that something is wrong with them. And so we want to look at those distortions that we are now dealing with as adults. They started when we were young. During your first 10 years of being a child or a human being, the template is clean. So your parents and your caregivers, they are writing on that template. So distorted thinking comes from the way that we were conditioned and what was modeled to us. So somebody who struggles with one of the thinking distortions, which is personalizing, something is wrong with me. Whenever there is something that happens in the office, it happens within the community, in your relationships, you immediately begin to think, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? Or what is wrong with me? That is what we call personalizing. And personalizing turns the problem to be your fault. And when you turn the problem to be your fault, the next emotion you are going to feel is the emotion of hopelessness, of guilt, of being stuck, low levels of motivation, where you feel like there is something inherently wrong with you. So if you are a culprit of that, please seek out my help. I'll be glad to help you with that. Then number two, there is something that we call turning, we say turning a molehill into a mountain. People who grow up in homes where there were no rules. It was permissive, it was free for all, there were no boundaries, nobody ever told you what you did wrong. When you become an adult, you grow up thinking that people should cater for you, to you. You have no boundaries, you don't have a lot of clear direction in life. So what happens? You go with the flow. You tend to go with whatever the crowd is doing, and you find yourself that you question yourself a lot. You have self-doubt, and what happens now? In the process of interpreting things and thinking about things that are happening in life, so something small happens, you are triggered, and you begin to think about the worst case scenario, which now creates for you anxiety, or it creates for you depression. Anxiety, you are afraid of the unknown. Depression, you feel you are stuck, you feel you are helpless, and you feel there is no hope. Then we have another distortion that of thinking that we call predicting. Predicting or projecting, and projecting actually, because predicting is where you are predicting that something bad is going to happen. That is number one. Or number two, you are predicting what you think the other person's intentions are. You predict that they don't care about me, they really hate me, that's why they did 1, 2, 3, 4. So once you begin that process of your mind predicting the intentions of somebody else's behavior, then again, your mental health is going to be affected, because you are either going to feel that you have been treated badly, you've been disrespected, either you are going to fight for your rights to get back what you think they have taken away from you, or you are going to hide, you are going to be passive, you stop talking to them, you block them, you just run away from the situation, you avoid them at all costs. That is another way that you are going to be negatively affected by the way you think about a situation. Then we have people who think, now the predicting and the mind reading, they go together. People who say, I know what you're thinking, I know why you did that, without asking for evidence, without asking people what happened. Now, that person who says, I know what you are thinking, they actually are saying, I know, I can read your mind. And so those people have a difficult time allowing people to be themselves, allowing them to have a different way of thinking. Then there is also the person who is the empath, or the person who wants to help everyone. So they predict, I'm not going to tell them such and such, because if I do, then they are going to act such and such. They are going to be hurt, and I don't want to hurt people's feelings. So I want to be nice. That in itself is going to cause you a lot of mental stress. And so you need to realize you can't read people's minds, and you cannot control how they react to something. You need to let them be. And I can help you with that if you struggle with that. So those people who cannot say no, they don't set boundaries, they are always trying to make everybody comfortable, they develop bitterness over time. And these are the people who overreact, because you can't keep holding things inside. Or you're going to develop ulcers, headaches, you're going to develop muscle, tightness, because you are holding on to all of this negative energy, because emotions are negative energy or positive energy. And so when you keep holding them inside, you don't tell people when they do you wrong, you don't set boundaries with people, because you are reading their minds, or you are projecting on them what you think they are going to do. And then there is also another side of projection, is what we call deflating. So when something happens and I know I'm guilty, I feel shame about what I did, I begin to deflate, or I begin to project my feelings or my anger to another person, instead of accepting that I did something wrong, apologize, and we resolve that issue. A lot of that happens within relationships, and I want to tell you, it is rooted in shame. Shame and guilt, they are a prison. That's a prison, because it tells you you can't accept that you are wrong, and it feeds your ego. And once it feeds your ego, you become arrogant. And that is why now we are having issues with narcissistic tendencies, where people are not agreeing to accept that they have done something wrong. They turn it around, and that is what we call gaslighting, guilt tripping, or other words that you can use. Somebody comes to me, they tell me you have done me wrong, and I turn it around and I say, even you did blah blah blah. Or they said, if you had not done such and such, then I wouldn't have done such and such. All these things, they come from our thinking patterns, which are rooted in how we were raised, and what we believe about the world, and what we believe about ourselves.